Welcome to the Adoption Journey podcast. My name is Tarsha Smith. And today in the building, our special guest is the husband of Maria Gibson, Mr. Antonio Gibson. If you caught episode 5, you were able to hear their story of their fostering into adoption of their two beautiful children. Welcome, Antonio.
Hey, thank you for having me on today.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. So, I wanted to bring you on because I think it's important to hear a father's side of this story, being going from fostering to adoption, even from a birth parent, an adoptive parent. Fathers are just quote unquote not important. You always hear birth mother, adoptive mother. It's always about the mom. So I think it's important to tell your story, your perspective, and what this has been like for you as a father. What does that look like when your wife says, or when you go through the fertility and it doesn't quite work out, and then you end up fostering and then ultimately adopting? What does that look like from a father's perspective? What did it look like for you?
So let's start with just fathers as a whole. We do get the short end of the stick. Father's Day is coming up quickly, and we get the worst gifts ever. No one talks. They just like, we're gonna get your father a tool. Well, more like I already have a hammer, but I'm gonna get you another screwdriver. Or get more ties. But we oftentimes, I think society has put us in this secondary role that we're supposed to just man up, suck it up, and we'll be all right. And
Mm,
so a lot of focus is on the mom, and rightfully so in a lot of aspects, honestly, because there is a lot of um, physical, emotional ties that goes with birthing a child, if that's the case. But when you start getting into adoption and fostering, a lot of people don't think about from the mother side, and I'll start there. Oftentimes, when the mother is giving the child up, so you have from that aspect of a parent, a mother giving up that child, where a father doesn't always have to make that decision. So that's already gut wrenching at that. At birth, you're giving this child away. You don't want to see it, or if you do, you're like, I have to give this child away. A lot of fathers aren't in the conversation. Some should be, and in those situations, I think the father should be. It should be. He was there at the beginning. He should be there to help make that decision. But then a
right.
lot of fathers aren't in that decision as part of the reason why that decision is being made, because that father didn't step up, or the person who was there to help you have this child or get you pregnant isn't stepping up to fulfill his side of the obligations and or duties. That's why fostering and adoption is on the table. But then in our story, for us, when we went through the fertility part, as a male, part of our as human beings, our job is to procreate. And when you can't procreate, it makes you feel some kind of way. And I know a lot of men, when that situation came up, the first thing, of course, it's the woman's fault. That's just our society. It's always the woman's fault when something doesn't happen right. But then I found out through, and I've shared this with a lot of people, um, my my sperm wasn't. They weren't swimming properly. They had motility issues. And a lot of men don't go get tested. They don't get checked. They just keep moving from woman to woman if something's not right. But I'm like, you should go get checked out. It could be something wrong that could be fixable, potentially. And for us, my situation, we did the in vitro. And, for me, how I tried to handle at least, when you hear some bad news, humor was one of my first de facto. He said, your motility is bad. So I said, basically saying my sperm don't swim well. Oh, that's racist. My black sperm can't swim. We go to the beach, but we just don't get in the water. So,
I cannot.
so, so yes, the doctor looked at me sideways because like, I can't even
Oh,
touch that. I don't know what to do with that. Maria's gonna be like, can you be serious? I'm like, I am serious. They know how to get to the beach. They just don't get in the water. We can't swim. So that's kind of my coping mechanism through the whole entire thing. I
mhm,
laugh my way through it because it was not something I could control. It's just
right,
life. And
right.
so how do we move on from there? And we went through the in vitro portion of it, and oh man, in vitro is so expensive. And it's like it was a Honda Civic. If it don't work, that you don't have to tag, you don't have a car, you don't have to tag, you can't even sell it. So you're just sitting up there with a Honda, you making car payments on something you can't drive.
That is quite the interesting way to put that, so people understand financially what that could look like if they're
Yeah,
thinking about it.
you making car payments, and hopefully it works. And a lot of people don't work the first time.
Right.
So you doubling down. You went from a Honda Civic to an Infinity or a BMW on the second time around, and you're out here paying it, and you're praying that it works because they
Right.
can't guarantee it. And for us, it didn't work. Well, let me take that back. It did work, but it ended up being a miscarriage.
Hmm.
So when we get to that part of the miscarriage, that was a rough time. A lot of people. I was blessed. Honestly, I was blessed. I was at that time I was working at a company. I let my boss know what we were doing, and so she was fully aware. And when we had the miscarriage, I let her know, and she pulled me in her office immediately. It was a black woman. She pulled me in the office. She said, "Listen, I had three. Doesn't mean this is the end of the road. It happens." And she's like, "It's not your fault. It's
Mm.
not her fault." She's like, "What I want you to do right now is just go home and just be with her. That's all I want you to do." And she's like, "Don't worry about this. We'll get this worked out." And so I went home, but I'm like, this is the worst ever. I can't just sit here. I have to be doing something. I can't fix this. And that's a kind of a
Yeah.
male. We want to go
A
fix
male.
everything.
Hmm.
And I can't fix it. And so it made me feel even worse. I can't fix it. And I never want for, especially with my wife, Maria, I don't want her to sit there in pain and I can't help. I'm just
Hmm.
sitting on my hands. So, um, I think they had to do a DNC to
Yeah.
for that and that procedure. So sitting there and watching, she's in pain, and I'm just like, nothing I can do. And so I was like, I talked to my boss. I was like, can I work? And she's like, no. I was like, please let me do something because I can't fix this, but can I fix something? And at the time I was working with insurance, so I can at least go help somebody. I couldn't help here, but I can at least work from home and just be here with her, but my mind can be occupied.
Occupied. Yeah.
And so it was after that it was rough, and from a male side all the focus was on her. And I'm talking to one of my good friends, and her and I didn't talk to him months later how I felt about it. I said I was just lost. I was hurt, and I couldn't talk about it because no one ever
Why?
asked about me.
Let me. Okay. I was gonna say, why did you feel like you couldn't talk about it? And was it just that no one said, "Well, Antonio, how are you doing?"
Right, it was always, how's Maria doing? I'm like, she's doing all right, we're making it. And then but no one ever asked how, and then I didn't want to be selfish and hijack the question. Like, how's she doing? Oh, she's doing all right. But you know what? I am struggling right now. It just would have sounded weird.
It's
And
interesting though because as a male, and you tell me, but it seems like you guys feel like you're not allowed to struggle. You're not allowed to have feelings. You're not allowed. Like society feels like that's not okay. Like you man up. Is that?
oh, that's 100. So generational. I remember my parents, my father, and the men of his generation. My father passed here 2 years ago. He was in his 70s, and they don't cry. So
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I can count the number of times I ever saw my dad cry.
Me too. Me too. We're the same age. Our fathers were about the same age, and I can twice. Once when his mother died, and when his father died. That's the only time I can ever remember seeing my dad cry.
I'm on three, and that's three times in my whole entire life. And one was right before surgery, and really I walked in on him crying with my mom and Maria, and he stopped like when I walked in the room.
Yeah,
That's like the
yeah,
first
yeah.
time I ever seen him cry that I can recollect. So we were taught, man up, you suck it up.
Mhm.
And when you put your head of household, you have to handle responsibility. You have to do this. You got to be strong. That was the big one. You got to be strong for Maria. Like, what
Right.
does
You don't
that
have time to
entail?
process what does that entail, and can you properly do that if you're not okay?
Right. It's when you trying to fight multiple fronts, like how can a prime example? My father passed 2 years ago. It was the weirdest situation. Now, granted, I was blessed. My parents stayed with me for so many years, so I had an opportunity to spend a lot of time with him, especially before he passed. Um, we spent a lot of time talking, and then I had a lot of time him just being here in the house. So we had a lot of time to talk and stuff like that. And so, but I was at peace when he passed.
Mm.
Still hurt, but I was at
Yeah,
peace.
yeah, yeah.
So while I was processing just him not being here, the absence part, because it's different. You know, some people do. You got to deal with the death part, then you got the absence part. It's a lot that you have all these different moments, and they just catch you randomly. When I was start dealing with the absence part, I had people calling in, checking on me, and I'm consoling them because they were so lost, and they were like, "I just don't know what to say," and I'm like, "It's okay." I'm like, "You'll be okay." I'm like, "What? Wait a minute. I'm supposed to be the person that's being consoled, not the person that's."
How we get here?
Oh my God. But I realized that, and I think that as human beings, we all have different roles. And
Yeah.
I know for me, nursing is not. I'm not the nurse role. I'm not a caregiver person. I can do it if I have to, but that's not my first instinct. My
And
first thing
most
is,
men, it isn't. It's not your. Yeah, we're not. You're not the nurturers.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's not me. And mine is healing because I do it with laughter. So it's hard to be hurt, upset, and stuff around me because I bring this positive energy into the room. And
Okay.
so even in that situation of loss with us having that miscarriage, I still kept Maria smiling. We kept moving forward. But meanwhile, she's healing and I was just suppressing and pushing it down
Mm.
until um, one day I started talking to her and I was like, I was hurting because I lost something too.
Absolutely.
Just no
How
one
long
never
did it
asked.
take you to finally say to start talking?
Oh, maybe 3 months, 4 months
Wow,
before I started talking.
that's a long time to suppress
Well,
something
you
like
just stay busy, and so it becomes secondary in your life. Just as many things and many problems that we deal with, it's a lot of things that may bother us. But when you get consumed with life
that.
and
Hmm.
stuff like that, it becomes you get distracted. But every time when you're sitting by yourself in the car, because you know your car is your sanctuary, where you cry, you shout, you do all this stuff in your car. People next to you in the other car be like, "Is
Like,
something
what is
wrong with this
happening over there?
individual?" They getting it in over there. They having a moment, and then you try to keep yourself together because at work you you have to put all that aside. You compartmentalize, and that's the thing men
Right.
do a lot. We compartmentalize a lot of things. So we learn
Mm.
how to take pain and we put it in a box, put it on a shelf. Hey, that's on the shelf. I can't deal with that. I get that later. Meanwhile, I have to go cut the yard. I have to go run my son to practice. I have to go take care of this. I got to take care of that. And even with groups, oftentimes, up until recently, you've always had groups for women to meet and talk about from abuse to all these other situations, but no one ever asked the man, you know, what are the things that you've gone through? And then if we complain, sometimes we we get the deaf ear
Yeah.
or we get looked at like seriously, that's your problem. Well, I was hurt too. Oh, but you got everything else. But that's not the point. I'm dealing with this
Dealing with
particular
this as
thing.
well.
But we're generalizing everything that a man can't go through things. Or then you have the extreme of you have to have something major. It can't be as a woman. You can have something like um, for not to say you have from abuse or any of these things. Men can't claim those things. They have to be more. I was strung out on drugs. I was this. I was that. Even if we could have been beaten as a child. We can't use that as an excuse later on in life.
Wow. You're right. You're
We have
right.
to suck it up, man up, and I mean I kind of subscribe to that to a certain extent too. It's like, dude, that happened when you was 15. You 25. Let it go. Let's go. You an able-bodied man. You can go work. Go put your work
That's,
in. Go do what you got to do. Go earn
that's
some
my
money. Take care of
husband
your family.
says.
Take care of
Able
yourself.
bodied man. Yeah.
So we don't get as much leniency, and so I kind of subscribe to that in that time frame until we I just made a point to have a conversation, and we started talking, and we opened up about it, and I told her how I felt, and it blindsided her because she was like, I never thought about it
Mm.
because you just kept on moving, and I was like, that's what I was taught to do. You just keep on moving.
Now, let me ask you this because you're helping somebody. I know you are. What made you want to have the conversation? Because most men, if it crosses their mind, they're not going to act on it, or they don't even think, let me have a conversation. What made you, how did you get there?
Well, a lot of times I'll drive a lot of difficult conversations in our household just
Okay.
because I'm like, if I'm gonna talk to anybody, about this as it pertains to us, I'll go ahead and drive it. Now I'm gonna think it through because I want to make sure when we have this conversation, it's not a venting session. It's not a blaming session. I just really want to have a conversation. First I want to inform you. So let me inform you. This is how I'm feeling. Now from there, it may be blindsided to you because you're like, okay, I didn't see that coming. So you may not
Right.
have a response. You may be in shock. You may be like, I don't know what to say. And it's not that I want you to say anything. I just need to get it out. Now we can have a follow-up conversation later, but I need to get it out because it's been sitting on me and it's not making me feel good. And so I'll have I had that conversation, and it was one of those that it felt like a weight had been lifted.
Looked at, yeah.
This dark cloud had moved itself, and because even to this day, although I can't find it ironically, but I ran across it the other day, we still have the first what sonogram picture or whatever
Mm.
of, and I said we're gonna name it Baby X because we didn't know gender, we didn't know any of that, just Baby
Right.
X, undefined, goes with my program, just Baby X. Um, we even told the kids about it, our adopted kids or our kids. We told them about it, and they were like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah, they've been older than you." Be honest with you, if life had worked out that way, you guys might not have been here. So it was a plan.
It was
We didn't like
definitely
that
a
plan.
plan.
We definitely didn't like that first plan, but it was a
Yeah.
plan that opened that door to you guys coming here. So it was just trying to look at life from a different perspective. And then I
Yeah.
think another part that came about once that happened. We moved forward past that, and then we started looking at adoption. And adoption was so expensive.
Yeah.
So now I'm watching my wife. I remember we were kneeling in front of the foot of the bed, and we were looking at adoption prices. And she just started crying. She's like, "How are we going to do this?" And one of my coworkers, when I was at the company I was at, she asked a question. Because she pulled me aside, she told me she had several as well. And she's, "Let me ask you a question." She said, "Do you want to be a parent, or do you just want a child?" And I said, "I want to be a
Mm.
parent." And she was like, "Then don't give up." And I said, "Okay." And so I explained that to Maria. And when we saw those adoption prices, I was like, I said, "Don't
So
worry."
now you've gone from that Honda Civic to a Bentley.
Oh, yeah. Adoption prices. I'm like, they don't want the kid. I don't understand why y'all charging so much. Things you don't say out loud, but that's how I was feeling. I'm like,
Yeah, and that's a whole conversation all by itself. Like, what are we doing there? But
yeah.
we won't go there.
And so that was a thing where I told don't well I said I'll figure out something. Trust me, I will figure out something. I don't know what, but we're gonna figure this out. And so I was like, we team Gibson all the way. Let's make this happen. We'll figure it out. And we looked at that. We looked at adoption, all the things that goes along with that, and it was just like, okay, this may not work. So is there another plan? And we were praying and trying to figure it out. And and I'm pretty sure she told you my aunt called just out of the blue one day, and she was like, "Hey, your cousin, he's in jail right now, and he can't take care of a child. I can't take care of it, and the mom doesn't want her, but that's
She
family."
touched on that. She did tell me there was a cousin.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that didn't work out, even though you guys did try. She touched on that.
So, long story short, he my aunt called on my mom's side, and by this time, everyone knew we had,
Yeah, yeah.
and we were trying to. It was the weirdest thing because we were so ready to make that announcement. It was going to be at my aunt's retirement party, so
Oh,
we were going to make this. It was not to steal her glory, to get her excited. I was like, I have a gift for you. We had planned it. This was going to be her gift. So now that you're in retirement, you can help take care of our child. And for her, that would have been
yeah.
because I was
That's what
her
I
other
want to do
son.
when I retire.
Of course. Um, I was like always one of her kids. I grew up in her house. And so
Okay.
for us to have a child, that just for her, that would have been life.
Yeah.
And so I grew up with so many aunts and uncles who were like parents to me.
Yeah, yeah.
And so to have a village, I grew up in a true village.
Mm-hmm.
For us to have a child, I was like, you don't understand, you were just blessed because they're going to just eat you up. They'll give you whatever you want, not even what you need. They're gonna give you what you want.
What you want? Yeah.
And so this aunt, she called us out of the blue, and she said, she goes, I've been praying for you guys, and this is the situation that came up. And then she was like, I think you guys would be great foster parents. And we're
Mm.
like, okay, well, and we talked about it. And I said, well, she's family, and we've both grew up. Our parents helped raise extended family,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it was like she'll move here. She's a baby. She don't really know any different anyway. So we'll
Mm-hmm.
help raise her. We're family, and plus you'll stay in the family. As
Right.
culturally we've done for years. We just didn't do it
Right.
with we've never done it officially. It was just done unofficially.
Right. Unofficially, a whole lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you grew up with your cousins, and sometimes you didn't even know they were your cousins. They were just your
Right.
sister and brother for years until you found out.
Because somebody
So
said, right.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
so somebody said, that's
Somebody
not.
slip up. What?
Yeah, talking about family reunions,
A funeral?
funeral, family reunions, couple weddings there. Them red cups get you in trouble. So, so, yeah, we went through the process, and that's what got us into the foster care process as a whole. That's what
Okay.
entered us into that,
Into the
and we went
process.
through the process, and
Yeah.
everything was looking good. Room was set up and everything, and in the 12th hour, that's when they were like, "Oh, Maury Povich moment. That baby is not your cousin's." Wait, time out. Wait a minute.
Okay. She didn't tell us that part.
Yes, we were like, because she was handling that on the front end. So she was corresponding with. I can see why she probably blacked this part out. She was um,
Yeah.
dealing with the social worker or whomever, the foster care worker, and she was working with all them, and on our local side. And the young lady here, she did a great job, and then she just got frustrated because she was communicating and she wasn't getting stuff back from Virginia.
Now that she said, trying to go over state lines.
Right. And that's already, it's a lot more paperwork that goes along with it. So it is a little bit more cumbersome. But then she's so frustrated. I mean, she's coming home, she's complaining about it, she's fussing, she's calling me in the middle of the day. She's like, "You busy?" "I am working." And then she'll just start talking. I was like, "Well, I'm not busy now." So because you got a vet. So she was like, "I need you to take it over." All right, I'll take it over. So I was in front of a computer all day, so I can email. And I'll be sending emails. And I was like, listen, all I'm asking for is just updates. You don't have to be weekly. Even if you do a bi-weekly update to status, even if you say status is still the same, I'm cool. But just letting me know what's going on. We're in the dark here. And it is slightly frustrating to be left in the dark when you just don't know. That's kind of customer service 101 anyway. And till finally, I was like, okay, now y'all gonna make me pull out the big guns. I went and researched who your boss is. Now I'm sending, when I start CCing
She's
people
saying
over
the
you,
boss. Yeah, then you get a response.
oh, that response came quick. Well, we're. And I was like, well, I don't like doing that unless you're doing what you're supposed to
Necessary.
do.
Yeah.
And all I'm asking for are updates on the status. And then, like I said, in the 12th hour, they do a blood test. And when I found this out, I lost it. I went and I was like, I don't understand why a blood test wasn't done minute one to ensure that who was the father, to verify that. Just because she said that was the father doesn't mean that's the father. Do a blood test.
That part. It's so funny that you're even going. Give me a moment to process what you said, because Maria glazed right over that. She just said it.
Yeah, that was a sore spot. She was hot about that. She just was like,
Yeah, she literally was. Yeah, she's. But I just read something within this past week that said blood tests. Like if you're not married, blood tests should be done like no matter what, on the spot.
that's been a
This
debate
conversation.
for some time now.
Yeah.
Where because they were questioning who foots the bill if this blood test is
Mm,
done at birth, and most men say yes,
right.
do it. And most women's like, well, why do you have to verify? It's not about verification. It's just you just do a blood test. No harm, no foul. Insurance picks it up, and
The
if
end.
everybody's right, is right. Now, the
Right.
only time it's questionable is if it contradicts what the birth mother's saying. Now it
Right.
becomes awkward. But most fathers like do the blood test.
Do it. Yeah, most fathers are like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right. Most fathers.
100% behind it.
Okay. You just dropped the bomb on me. Look, when you go back and for the people, when you watch episode 5 of Maria, watch her glaze right over that. But I understand why she did.
Yeah, it
Okay,
was.
so you look, you are dropping some nuggets. So you get past this bombshell is dropped. So how long does it take? And you know what? Now, as a father, from a male perspective, you said that you were livid. Is it because now you've gone through the miscarriage and now you're building excitement for this, and here's another bombshell? Are you just over it at this point?
It was a huge letdown because now your life is consumed with this. And then
Okay.
there were several fronts I was upset about. First of all, you're as a compartmentalized. I'm working. I'm dealing with work related stuff and dealing with customers and all that stuff on that side. Then you come home and you have this baby room all set up. See the difference, and I don't know if Maria touched on this, but I looked at this and I explained this to my best friend from college. Her and I were chatting one day, and she was one who kind of helped me through it because she did check on me because it's my friend. But and
Yeah.
coming from a female perspective, it does help. But I mean, she didn't fully understand the feelings that were attached to it. So it was more of a vent. But when I actually had that real conversation, that's when I talked to Maria. But one of the things I talked to her about, and I said to her, I said, you know what's really frustrating is every day you walk into that baby room, there's no baby in it. So there's a constant reminder if you had a miscarriage. It's a constant reminder, like you said, this fostering thing didn't pan out, and now we're empty. We're back to zero. We had hope, and then we're
Back to
back to zero. And
zero.
you're like, okay. And this is
And
money spent. Come on, people, you're killing me. This is we separate. What am I supposed to do with this baby room? It's not like
right.
you can rent a kid. At least I didn't think
And
you
turn around.
could
Okay.
until you get fostering. That's Blockbuster right there. Take 2 days and you're gone. So,
Cannot.
so- but that's how you feel. It's like whatever. It's just you're just so frustrated, and you're just like, come on, can I get a break? I
Right.
always tell Maria when we go through things, life it just keeps hitting you. You keep taking these punches and punches and punches. It's like eventually it's gonna stop. And if I withstand it and I can keep standing in the midst of it, it's going to get
Mm.
better. And I know it's going to get better because if you have faith, you know it's going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
If you just see patterns of life, no one's always down.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
are moments of hope and there's moments of greatness. And to be honest with you, we have great moments. Sometimes we just don't look at it that way, but we have way more great moments than bad moments.
Yeah.
I mean, and so when you really stop and look at it, I knew it was going to get better. It's just right now, it's just in our face, and we're just in the midst of it. We're in that, and biblically, you're in the valley, but just you're in the midst of it, and you're just like, come on, it has to get better.
It-
And that was uh, that was the summer going. Yeah, that was the last. That was yeah, because we got the phone call like July. So
okay.
So July we got that phone call, and that was 2010 when we got that.
Okay, so we're coming up on the
Yes,
son.
and
Yes.
so we end up getting we got that. We were just like, okay. I remember my dad came to us. He came to me specifically, and he had told Maria individually. He said, I believe it's going to happen. He said, don't give up on it. It's going to happen. I said, oh, I believe it's going to happen. We don't spend money on this, and something's going to happen. Oh, baby coming from somewhere. I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know. We just might
So
find a kid on the street.
now, Lord have mercy.
Somebody got to lay in this room.
So that's y'all. I wasn't
Changing
ready.
table.
I wasn't ready. Maria did not warn me. I wasn't ready. So now it makes total sense why when she got the phone call, she was like, I'm on my way.
Yes. But did she tell you that wasn't our first phone call?
She did not tell me that was not the first phone call. I don't
Alex was not
know.
the first phone call. We had a phone call, I think maybe it was at the end of the year, or right at the beginning of before Alex. It might have been a week before Alex, like a week before. So it might have been the very beginning of the year. We got this phone call. It was like 9 o'clock at night, and it was like watching Good Times when they got news around the phone. Like, you know how everybody had a centralized phone and everybody gathered around the phone in that moment.
Yeah.
That's how I felt. It's like I got the phone call and they were like, is this Antonio? I said, yes. And they identified themselves and they said, we have 3 foster kids. We have 3 kids that need to be placed. That's what they said. And no, they said we have kids that need to be placed and it's siblings. And can you handle 3? And so I looked at Maria and I'm repeating what they're saying. So my dad, my mom, everybody's sitting around me on the phone. And I'm sitting there like, honestly, we don't have the room for 3, but we'll accommodate tonight. If you need us tonight, we'll accommodate. We'll figure it out. Because technically we had 2 rooms and it was going to be either 2 girls or 2 boys. We'll figure it out for tonight if you needed us, but let us know. And they said,
Okay.
well, we'll call around. And really before that, the caseworker, she asked us, it was a young black girl. She said, you guys would be such great foster parents. Please don't drop out of the program. Please don't.
Mm.
And so it was a combination of her asking us, and she was like, they need parents like you guys. You guys have a stable household. You have 2 parents that you're young. You have 2 parents that, you care, you want to do this. Then you have your parents here. So you have support. You have space, you have room. She's like, you guys killed everything. We need parents like you. And the other part, it was like, and she said, you're not doing it for the money. I was like, no, we're doing it because we genuinely want to give this child
Want to help. And that's what
help.
Maria said. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if she mentioned one of the things that when we decided to move forward before that first phone call, we said, if we're going to really do this, we have to commit ourselves that no matter if that child comes for one day or they stay forever, we're going to give them the best life they can have in that time they're with us.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was our commitment to every child that walked in
That's
our
amazing.
house. And so when we got that first phone call and that didn't work out, they called us and said, oh, we can place all 3. We were like, woo, because I don't know if I was ready for that. Because we don't. So here's a part that people don't talk about.
Okay.
And from this straight up male perspective, I don't get 9 months to mentally prepare. I didn't get 9 months. Typically, a woman her body starts to change, her hormones start to change, so her mindset begins to change. So for a woman to give up a child, I can't imagine what she's going through because everything in your body is telling you to keep this child.
Yes.
Now all of a sudden so I do understand why they say I don't want to see it. I don't know, just soon as I have it, take it away, because everything is tied to that. From a male, we don't have that tie. We're emotionally tied to the female, but we're not emotionally tied to the baby like that. And
Not
so,
yet. Mm-hmm.
right. And so that's why I think it's so easy for guys to walk away, because once I lose interest in you, it's over. And, or I don't want the real responsibility, I can walk away because I have no emotional tie to that. But when you're fostering, I don't get morning sickness. I don't get the cravings. I don't get to go through that whole experience. I don't go
Mm-hmm.
through labor pains. I don't go through water breaking. I go from get a phone call, you have a kid. So that's why I
Yeah.
joke about the whole rent a video or Blockbuster moment, because literally it's, hey, I just went to Blockbuster and picked up a couple of movies. I know for your viewers who aren't old enough to know what Blockbuster is, but they just instantly, you come home and there's a movie showing up and there's a child in your house.
Right.
And that leads to Maria's phone call when she called me and said, hey, they called and they said they have a little boy. Really? And she goes, I just wanted to know, what do you think? Sure. Well, good, because I'm on my way. What'd you call me for?
I'm on my way.
What'd you call me for? I mean, you had to
Meet
make
me
a
at the
decision.
house. I really called to tell you to meet me at the house.
And I can tell you, I can remember that day. I was at work. She called, couldn't stop smiling. Didn't know what I was going to get, you know. I didn't know what I was getting into. Didn't know what I was going to, I just knew it was a little boy. And she doesn't know what the little boy going to look like. I didn't know. I just knew it was a little boy coming. And I went and told my boss at the time. He hadn't known what was going on. I had brought him up to speed. So he was like, yeah, go home. Don't worry about it. Just go. Take care. And so I'm just grabbing stuff. And I'm like, hey, I'm finished this. And I'm out. So I jumped in the car and I'm gone. And I get home and she's home. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. Because I have not prepared for this moment. I'm not ready. And he was 4 months. And I was like, okay. Well, I know how to hold babies because I've grown up around babies and stuff. I don't have that desire to hold other people's kids. Never had that desire.
A lot of people don't.
Yeah, I just
cute and keep it moving.
keep on moving. I wave at you. I'll sit there while you in your carrier. Hey, what's up? I leave it like that while you're being held. So that first night, Maria and my mom, they go to choir rehearsal. My dad was gone and they leave me home. She said, I'm washing up stuff.
Thrown into the fire.
I'm sitting there. She's like, the baby, it was like, he's asleep. I was like, okay. So she's like, stuff in the dryer, stuff just folded up. Gotcha. I ate and I'm sitting there like, is he still breathing? So I'm walking around the corner looking at, I'm like, oh, he's still in there. He's still breathing. Okay, let me come back out. I don't want to wake him up. I'm like, maybe he'll sleep until Maria gets back home. So I'm just busy just keeping myself busy. But I'm like, he's still breathing? Hey, I can't lose this baby on my watch. This can't happen. This is going to be on me. So finally, I peek in there and I see his eyes open. And I'm like, hey, man, you up? So he saw me when he was up before he went down. But, hey, man, you up? All right. So let me check. Let me check your pamper. They said you got a bottle over here. So I'm talking my way through the process.
Okay.
And I said, well, let me change your pamper first. Let me get you set. So I took him in my room. No one tells me you shouldn't lay a baby on the bed and don't have protection because, wow, just spraying everywhere. And it's just like, dude, seriously, this is where we're going to start? This is our relationship's going to start like this.
He's like, welcome to fatherhood.
I'm like, oh, no one told me this. I'm like, there's no manual for this part. So I was like, okay, I got to move a lot quicker. So got him set, and that's where we started. And that was the first one. And it was cool. I mean, I always envisioned just kind of chilling out with the baby and with a baby. And when we got Alex, we listed there, and I'd be laying on the sofa, he'd be laying all of both of them. They got an opportunity. They just laid on my chest and I'd go to sleep on the sofa watching TV. They have several pictures
of that. Yeah.
Of us, them laying on my chest and going to sleep. Because a lot of times I'm just being at peace. and I can sit there and I'm relaxed, they're relaxed, and I'll put them to sleep like that. And that's how we spent a lot of our nights, just hanging out, doing that. You find yourself, I'll give this message to all parents, not just all parents. Don't be fooled. Babies get you caught up because you sitting there. I was like, I want to go home and spend time with the baby. I just want to watch him sleep and eat. I just want to watch him. Meanwhile, you don't put on 25 pounds. Broke all your habits. Don't have no more friends.
Just sitting around watching this baby sleep.
Just watch your baby sleep. Just want to go home and watch my baby sleep. Then when you snap out of that, you're like, oh, what happened to all my clothes? They don't fit anymore. Like, I'm going to go to the gym and work out, but my workout clothes don't fit.
And that's when they say the guy gains the weight also. Mm-hmm. Like the mom puts on the weight even sometimes after the pregnancy, because she too is all real consumed with the baby. And that, I'm glad you touched on that, because guys, y'all get caught up too.
We get caught up.
Watch the baby sleep. Okay.
Called me. I was like, hold on. I could go to the gym. This child gonna be asleep for a couple hours. I could go knock out a good workout, come back home, and he would not have known I was gone. So I started doing a little bit more time management on that. But it was fun though. I enjoyed that whole process.
You seem like you enjoy fatherhood. And so take me through, now you have this little one, and then not too far down the road, here's another phone call at Kiki's.
We started getting phone calls. No, before there was a
well, yeah, she said you had a lot.
So
yeah.
So I'm gonna give anyone who decides to foster, make sure your caseworker knows the child's name or knows how to phonetically spell it or say it. Because we had one, we didn't even caseworker. What's the child's name? To be honest with you, I really don't even know her name. How do you? And so she looked it up and she said, I'm going to call y'all back. So she calls us and tells us the name. We can't pronounce it. Then we had one, we couldn't pronounce the name. Okay, so parents, birth parents, please name your child a name that people can pronounce.
Don't do that.
I love us being creative and different, but just remember, other people got to say your child name too. So we've struggled with, we didn't know the name, so the caseworker had to call us back. Then we had a situation where we couldn't pronounce it. What we did, we had a whiteboard and we started writing the child's name and some critical information on the whiteboard when they came in. We had a bunch of girls come in.
Yeah.
And we were so blessed at a time we were at ECC. We had, everybody seemed like they had kids at that time. It was something in the water. So that's what we started.
I remember that time.
Drink that water.
I remember that time. Looking like everybody was pregnant.
Everybody was pregnant. I said, Mary, we bring bottled water. Don't drink that water. So everybody was they donated us. So we had so many clothes. We went through it, and people were constantly, our friends from outside, people just giving us clothes. And so we were so blessed we didn't have to buy all that stuff when we had that. So Alex, who was growing up, he didn't realize that he had all these little foster sisters that he was around. But he was just living his best life. He was just being a kid, and they came in, they were all babies. A lot of people ask us, why do you guys want babies? And wouldn't it be hard to have babies and them being removed from the home? And I said, I went back to yes and no. For the short period of time that they're there, some of them a month or two. I think we had one for, our first one after Alex was Cynthia. She was there for a month or so, maybe 5 weeks. And we got her at 4 days.
Wow.
She was coming off of drugs. Her mom smoked marijuana. So she cried a lot. Or she had a piercing scream. That's why I learned to swallow. I learned to tighten that. And she was wrapped and I had that thing tight. I learned how to do that very quickly. And right when we got her to calm down, she got accustomed to us. They removed her back from the home. Unfortunately, we found out later she was right back in it, maybe 2 months later. The father got her out. And she was back in the system. And she could have stayed with us. That was...
Yeah.
But we had a few come in, and from one little girl, she just had like a cul-de-sac because her hair wasn't growing, so I nicknamed her a cul-de-sac. Then we had Thickums. We had a little club. That baby was so chubby. All she wanted to do was eat. You was like,
Yeah,
okay,
she's not missing no meals, none.
none. It was like you say, okay, you get this, you measuring formula, and she was looking at us like, so you need to add a little bit more.
I love it when they're chunky like that. I
Like,
love it. My little grandbaby is chunky like that.
so yes, she was chunky, and she was just straight up chill. She'd just sit there and eat and lean back on the sofa. We had to keep sitting her up because a lot of times I have them propped up on the right in the corner of the arm
Yeah,
because we
yeah,
had
yeah.
leather sofas, so they'll sink in there, and she'll just be she'd be just perched
Chilling.
up in
Don't
there,
you love it when they're just so chill?
and she just sat there and watched TV. She was cool, so she rolled with my mom well. She just chilled. They both watched TV, and then we finally, and it was funny because I had called one. I said, Maria, I'm getting kind of. I said, we have Alex and it's cool, but I'm missing a baby in the house because he getting too. I was like, he moving around too much. I want the ones that you can hold.
They don't
He
stay
want to be
little
held no more.
forever.
I know. And I was like, this one moving around a lot. I said, he cool to hang around and play with, but just one who's going to chill out.
You just
And
want
I
one
said,
you just.
yeah. And then the other part too was, I think it was coming around Christmas time. And I was like, it'd be cool to have. I'm my only child, so I didn't grow up with a whole bunch of people in my house on Christmas.
Okay.
Although I have a huge, on my dad's side, it was 17 siblings. So I have a huge extended family.
Yeah.
But, and Thanksgiving, I've gone to Thanksgiving dinners, we could be 20 deep, 20,
Yeah.
30 deep. So I've had that. But Christmas, it was always smaller. And so I was like, it'd be cool to have little kids around. And I was like, man, it'd be cool to have a little foster kid around here around Christmas. Sure enough, we got a phone call. Bam! Right before Christmas. I was like, wow, I can call him like that? $1 million? Oh, I guess it didn't work. And then we got that phone call for Jordan. And that one was we got that one. That was probably the hardest phone call. Because now I got daddy's girl coming in. And she gravitated to me. She gravitated to my dad. She was always tight. And something you had mentioned, when it comes down to fostering, I had realized this. A lot of times, because the mother's the person that is giving the child up, sometimes there depends on their age, could have been somewhat of a bond of the mother and the child before they were
Yes.
given up.
Yes.
But a lot of times the father's not even in place. So they don't have any concept of a male in their life. So my dad or I were the first males they gravitated to. So our relationship was typically strong with these foster kids. They gravitated to this male that you have from the voice to just it's something about a male. I can't describe it.
Yeah. No,
It's
you're
just
right.
it's just something about a male, and sometimes whether it be just that piece. I know I was just running basketball camp. The female coaches could say something, but when my voice came, it was like, "Hey, you need to sit down." It was different.
Yep.
It
Yep.
was just
It's
different.
like that with in the two parent home. When my mom, now don't get me wrong, I was scared of Dolores but it's something when my dad, it kind of hurt my feelings. Cause no,
Yes,
not you, not you mad at me too. No.
it was just
So,
something, and it was just different. And so something that it was very interesting. Alex has a very creative imagination. I'll get back to Jordan said, but Alex has a great imagination. And one day, I don't know if Maria shared this, is the funniest thing. We don't really know all of his mom's history, and their stories. I'm pretty sure some of the stories you'll hear from fostering is just some of them so tragic.
yes.
I don't know if she shared. Alex was found. The mom went back to the hospital after having him, and the nurses saw her. And they're like, "Hey, where's the baby? Because you just had a baby. We know." And they remembered her, and they ended up getting security, patted her down, found the key, went to the hotel where she had left him in his carrier watching TV.
Oh no, she didn't tell me that.
That's so almost abandoned him,
Yeah.
or did technically, but if she didn't go back to the hospital in that time frame, she was almost like she wanted to go get help.
Yeah.
And that's how they found him. And one day we were downtown area. We went to some event or something, and we're coming back. It might have been a Magic game or something. And he was like, I remember when my mom used to walk me downtown. Because at that time, I don't think he fully understood. Because in his mind, he's like, I'm supposed to come out of mommy's stomach.
Yes.
So he was like, yeah, I remember when mom used to walk me downtown. I look over at Maria because I was driving. Really? You was downtown? And she was like, he's like, yeah, she used to walk me downtown. And I used to be in a stroller. Because I remember I was in her belly. You used to be downtown walking with him in your belly. Really? I'm just saying this, but I ain't saying it out loud. I was just looking, she looking at me. He's like, how would he remember any of this? And I'm like, interesting. So he's always had this fixation on this story that he was creating, this narrative.
I get that. I did that. As an adoptee, I did that. I had, yeah, you just try and, I found out very early I was adopted, and you just try and piece together your own story when you're little like that and you have no concept of nothing. You just know you were adopted. Or I'm going to put together my own story because I too had a very vivid, I still have a very vivid imagination, even as an adult.
And see, the thing about it, we hadn't sold them yet. That's what really threw us off because we were like, because we didn't have the conversation. Because you have to go through name change stuff, and that was already, we were trying to mask that forever because that would have tipped the hand if they asked, well, who is that? So we tried to do our best on not getting to when we had to do the name switch. So the first few months of his life, well, January, started fostering. November, he was adopted, which they say never happens for that short period of time in foster care.
Wow.
Yeah, because we were like, hey, we need to fast track this. We're going on a trip, and we need them to be ready. And we need to start using his real name because I've been calling the boy, hey, boy, come here. So, because I didn't want to get used to the other name. So, just, hey, boy, come here.
You're so wrong.
But then as he got closer to that time, we went on to start using the name that we had chosen, and we started weaning away from the other name. So
why did you decide to change his name?
Because I think we knew what we. It's interesting you asked that. So we're kind of weird. And I'm saying this in a positive way. We're one of those weird people who actually start talking about marriage before we got married. We talked about life before we got married. We talked about discipline before we got married. We talked about raising kids before we got married. What would our kids' names be before we got married? So we're one of those people who actually talked about what life was going to look like. We painted it before we got married, when we were still dating. And I said, what would be your baby name? So we actually had this conversation. So when we did boy or girl, we had already made up our mind what the names were going to be. And so that's how their names start changing. And plus we always had to have, if they already had a name that we like, oh, that's a really pretty name, let's keep it. But then if they had a name that we just like, I don't want, can't apply for a job, everybody know who you are. So,
Unfortunately, that's a thing.
So yeah, we took all that in consideration. So that was one of the reasons we chose Alexander. That was my grandfather's name, and wanted that. And then the other part of it too, I didn't actually do this on purpose. I didn't realize it until after the fact that my father's name is initials are A. Gibson. Mine are A. Gibson. Now his is A. Gibson as well.
A. Gibson, yeah.
Didn't do it on purpose. I didn't need the alliteration, but it just so happened we all have different middle names. And I explained to him, because someone asked me, well, why didn't you make him a junior? I was like, because I don't want another version of me. I wanted him to be his own person. I never want him to be in my shadow. And I said, because I cast a big shadow. And I was like, for me, I don't need you. It's bad enough my shadow's already big. I don't want you to have to live up to anything that I create, which you're going to have to fight that anyway. I want you to forge your own road. I said, I'm going to do everything I can to clear the path for you, but I want your name. And actually, I took that from my dad, because my dad said that when people asked him. And him and I talked about it. And he was like, I just wanted you to be your own person. Because like
Yeah.
he casted a big shadow over me. And it took me years to get from under his shadow and
Okay.
become my own person.
That's
And
so interesting.
so that's the
So
reason I did it.
so you've got these two beautiful kids now, and I know at this point they're preteens because Alex and my baby boy are 3 days apart. So I know exactly
Yes.
where I know. Only difference between you and I over here, this is the last of the Mohicans. We almost we almost done over here, y'all. You got two.
Yeah.
you got
But we
you got
it's just 1 year. It's just one more year. It's one and next year. We won out and then right behind them.
right behind us. Right,
So
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I look, I know where you are. So tell me, because we're gonna start wrapping up. So you're going into these um, teenage years, and as a father, whether it's adoptive father, foster, whatever, tell me what advice you would give fathers for these teenage years, because we you talked about what it looked like as an infant, and all right, so here we go.
I'm gonna start. I don't like my kids.
Most
I love
at
my
this
kids to
point
death.
in the game, most parents don't.
I
I love
love my
you,
kids.
but Lord have mercy.
I
I
don't like
understand.
my kids. My gosh, every day is something different. It's always an issue. Can you solve your own problems? But no, you don't want to solve your own problem. You want me to solve them, but then you don't want me to tell you anything. How do you want me to solve your problem, but
You
you don't
are
want me to tell you
such
anything?
a father. Oh my God, Maria,
You can,
where are you?
oh my gosh. You know, I'm gonna tell you this. It was amazing to not. It doesn't matter if you birth a child, you foster a child, none of that matters. One thing that God gives you at the home, that good parents. I have to always put that in bold, asterisk around it. Good parents. The day that child walks in your house, comes into your home, you start gaining wisdom. And
Mm,
at that moment, I look back to where I was 20 years ago. There's no way I could have. I could have, but I'm glad I didn't. Because I don't know. Me and that child, we've been fighting every day. Because we're trying to find myself and I'm trying to help you find yourself and we both lost. That's just a bad combination.
yeah.
Now I'm more secure in who I am and I
Okay.
can stand on something and say no. I'm telling you this because I know. I'm not
Yes.
telling you this because I'm hypothesizing. I'm not telling you because I just heard it. I'm telling you because I know because I have experience and now I
Yes.
have wisdom to go with it. I always my
Mhm.
favorite lines is that's the beginning of a bad idea. And that's what I always tell them. Right when they get whether they say something and this is the beginning of a bad idea. I want you to think about that before
I
you go
love
any
that.
further.
I
You
love
give
that.
something, that's the beginning of a bad idea. And I say that to them, and I'm challenging them to think. What I tell parents now, and it's funny you asked that question because I ran into when Alex was getting his procedure done before his surgery. I ran into a young lady. She was pregnant, and she was a month away, and so we were talking about just what she was preparing for and all this is going to be her second child. And I said, from a male perspective, I was like, allow him to be a father.
Mm.
Allow him to be a father. You don't have to be everything. When you have a father who is in the home, if you have a father who wants to be part of their child's life, it's not about you anymore. It's about allowing him to build a relationship with his child. Allow him to be that father. Maria jokes about it all the time. She used to go out with her girls because one of the things that we agreed upon, I'm like, go have your time. Guys will
Yes.
have their time. One thing guys will do, we will find our time. We prioritize life a lot differently. Typically, our work comes first because we feel like we have to provide. Then our family is right there, and then family is oftentimes our kids. Then our wife sometimes takes third place, and it's not because of any resentment. It's not. It's not. It's just
No,
how things. Because
I
she's an
get you.
adult, you can fend for yourself. Shoot, working out may or hanging with the boys may trump some of that sometimes. But once you get to a point where you start, you you have life kind of in order to a certain extent. You start understanding that how to prioritize things. And Maria, I was like, go hang with your time. You need your time.
You need your
Don't lose
time.
yourself. Go
That's
hang with
right.
your girls.
That's
And so
right.
she'll go hang with her girls, and they'll be like, well, where are the kids?
With their
They're
daddy.
with their daddy. You leave from home with their dad? That's their father. Why
Yes,
not?
absolutely.
So allow the father to be a father. And then the men, you got to step up and be a father.
Mm.
And you really, and I mean, you got to give mom a break sometimes. I'm pretty sure you can attest to this. Maria has said it so many times. I'm changing my name from mom to something else. Because I swear if I
Lord
get
have
called one
mercy.
more time,
Yes. Somebody
yo,
say it
daddy
one
is
more
right in
time.
the room. And you went out the room, went and came and got me.
It came
Why
back.
you ask your daddy?
I've said it many times. Weren't you just in the room with him? Go back.
And they're like, because he gonna say no. You doggone right. so, so we already got that relationship built. But as they get older now, mine in the preteen years, we used to joke about once they hit a certain age, you're mine. Once you hit about fifth grade, you're mine. Because that's who I coach. That's who I deal with a lot. My patience is it's actually it's longer because I
Mm.
understand. I remember being that age, and I deal with them so much. I know what it's like to be in that age. The biggest fight is just listening, and I know
Yep.
they're not going to get everything. So I said, I'm gonna have to stay on you. I said, mom gets a break a lot of times. She may be with you during the day, but she just hands it off to me because she knows I'm going to come and I'm going to keep coming. I'm going to keep coming because I
Yeah.
know that at a certain point it will stick, especially with boys. It will stick. I just don't want you to have to go through it for it to stick first. So, dad,
Mm.
stay on them. Keep, even when they fight you on it, keep saying it. Even when they don't, you think they're not listening, keep saying it. Because think of how many things our parents didn't think
We heard him.
we heard them. And it comes back when you start hearing their voices in your head, when you have decisions to make, and you be like, oh, God, I can't. You keep doing it. Even when you made the wrong decision, you like,
Yeah.
man, I should have listened. Now, you're not
Should have
going to admit
listened.
it because our pride is big. We're not going to admit it when we're young, but we do understand that
Absolutely.
there's, as parents, but as fathers, and I can leave you with this. This is something that someone said to me, my mentor. He said to me, he said, you understand your role, your responsibility. He said, you're responsible for that household. He said, you're responsible for your wife. You're responsible for your kids. He said, to a certain extent, you say you're responsible for your parents because they're living in that household. He said, if something goes wrong, it's your responsibility. He said, you can't blame your wife, can't blame your kids, can't blame your father, even though he's in your household. That is you. So you have to step up and you have to be responsible and you lead that household where it's going. And when he said that to me, I really internalized that to I have to take lead when it comes down to ensuring that my kids hear the right thing. So even it shifted my mindset on um, what I'm teaching, what I'm saying to them. Um, I still give them a hard time because that's just who I am. I'm gonna get them. I'm like, I don't like y'all. Why y'all always talking to me? I always dog them out, but I do constantly remind them I love you. And I even my son when he went through that surgery here, he said, I was like, do you want me to stay? He's like, oh, mom was okay just to come and visit, but he didn't want daddy to leave, and
That
he
speaks
understood.
volumes.
I said, dude, I will always have your back.
That speaks volumes.
I said, just don't make me defend you when you're wrong, because I'm not gonna let anybody railroad you. But you're wrong, you're wrong.
You're right. Look,
But I
that
always will
speaks
have your
volumes.
back because I need you to know that someone's gonna always be in your corner.
Always been your friend.
And it's something mama's always default. That's the default. But when a dad steps in that space
Yeah.
and they know that, they know if somebody's trying to bully them, they can run home like my daddy home. Something about saying, but my daddy home
Somebody
with you.
daddy get listen. Listen. I understand that.
So yes,
Um,
it was been a journey, and we've even talked about, and you can have a episode, I don't know, 8 or 9. Um, we've even had the conversation of doing it again.
she told me.
Yeah, but this time for real, this is a we got an expiration date. You got
And
no one
with
can stay.
that,
We ain't got no more rooms at the end.
listen, I want to thank you so much for this conversation. Lord have mercy. Family, I wasn't ready. Were you ready? But I loved every minute of it from a father's perspective, a perspective that we don't often hear. Antonio, I'm gonna have to bring you back. I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
bring you back.
anytime.
There's more conversations to be had. I'm gonna have to definitely bring you back. Please let the people know how to follow you. Let the people know what you do.
All right. Well, as I go by Coach Antonio, Coach Gibson. I actually teach character development at a private school right now. I'm gonna do a shout out to them, Creative Global Schools. Um, I do character development, talk about decision making and discipline, responsibility, accountability, character, and standards. And I do that with young people. So if you ever need if you have something at a church or a youth group, I can come and speak to those organizations. And then I also do basketball training and I do performance training with middle school and high school athletes, actually going and college athletes as well. So I help them work on their footwork and develop that. So I'm the X Level organization. You can find us at thexlevel.org. That's THEX, as in xylophone, LEV, as in Victor, EL.org. You can always email me. I am, and that's A Gibson at thexlevel.org as well. Or you can find me on social media. Now, I'll be honest with you. I am horrible at social media. I have a whole bunch of pictures that haven't been posted, but
You gotta get better.
I do. But the X Level on all social media
Excellent.
platforms.
And family, don't worry, I will drop all of his information below. So the links will be there for you to click. Again, thank you so much, Antonio. Thank you, family, for joining us on the Adoption Journey podcast. And until next week, bye, family.
Bye.